Hey there and welcome back as we continue our tour of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The last couple weeks we've looked at places that kind of had a rough go of things. This week it's going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to be looking at the statue of Zeus. It was originally located in the sanctuary of Olympia in the Elis region of Greece. And as we've defined before, a wonder is something that was meant to draw people in and inspire awe. And why today's wonder actually did do that, it seems to have served a more practical purpose for the sanctuary of Olympia: money. The Sanctuary of Olympia was famous for two reasons, the first being the statue of Zeus, the second being the Olympic Games. Before we look at why they constructed the statue of Zeus, we first need to take a look at Olympia itself. The Sanctuary of Olympia is located in a very fertile valley between two rivers, the Alpheus and the Calidus. It was first inhabited sometime around 4000 BCE, but it didn't really start to hit its stride until between the 10th century BCE and the 4th century CE. Now you would think that with Zeus being the main god of worship at the site, that he would have the first temple, but actually Hera got a temple before Zeus ever did. Her temple was constructed sometime between 650 to 600 BCE, and much like amusement parks today when they're looking for a new ride, a new attraction to bring new people in, eventually Hera's temple stopped producing as much money, so they decided to finally build a temple to Zeus in 457 BCE. And sorry for comparing temples to amusement parks, I've been watching a lot of this man's videos as of late. The Temple of Zeus was constructed by a guy named Liban of Elis, and he designed it to take and be the largest temple of its type in Greece at this time. It stood around 20 meters in height, 64.12 meters in length, and 27.68 meters long. The columns were laid out in a 6 by 13 columns on the sides, 6 columns in the front and back. Each column was said to be around 10.5 meters tall and around 2.25 meters in diameter. The pediments at both ends of the temple, they're that triangular part at the very top, they were decorated with stories from Greek mythology. On the western side, it depicted the battle between Apollo and the Centaurs, and if you've ever been to a wedding, you've probably seen this played out in some fashion. The story goes, at the wedding for the king Pirithous, they invited the Centaurs to come join in the celebration. And when one of the Centaurs named Eurytion had just a little bit too much, he took the stand now and forever hold your peace for the maybe I should run up there and grab the bride. Needless to say, this didn't go too well with the Lapiths that were holding the celebration. They fought the Centaurs, thus chasing the Centaurs out of the lands forever. On the eastern pediment, it showed the story of the chariot race between Pelops and Oenomaus. Oenomaus was a king, and Pelops had his eyes on the daughter. He wanted to take and marry her, but the king was said to have less than proper relations with his daughter. So the king challenged Pelops to a chariot race. The winner would get the daughter, the other one had to die. Now there's two different versions of the story. The first one, Pelops wins fair and square. The second version, he bribes the charioteer for Oenomaus, and he has the linchpin removed, thus leading to Oenomaus losing the race. And on the metapiece, the rectangular part that's underneath the pediments and goes all the way around the temple, it showed the 12 labors of Hercules. Hercules was said to have to complete these labors after going crazy and killing his wife and children. Now at this point, you would be forgiven if you thought that the statue of Zeus was an original installment at the temple. I know I thought it was. But it actually didn't come around until 430 BCE, some 27 years after the temple was fully constructed. And it looks like it was actually done as a publicity stunt to help bring attention to the Olympic Games. And as I mentioned before, the Olympic Games were the other thing they were known for. They started around 776 BCE, and they were held every 4 years. Originally, they only had one event, the stadium. But much like modern sports, athletes soon outperform the sport itself, and it starts to become boring to watch. So to combat the boredom, they decided they were going to introduce another event called the Dialos. And what was this? Well, instead of running down to the one end and stopping, you now had to turn around and come back. But even that started to get boring. So in 720 BCE, they introduced another foot race, kind of a marathon type thing. It was 4.8 kilometers in length, or so about, we don't really know. This wasn't just located in the stadium though. It would start at the stadium and then stretch its way through the sanctuary itself. From there, they started to add a variety of different events. In 708 BCE, they added wrestling, boxing in 688 BCE, chariot races in 680, and then from there, they started to just throw things at the wall to see if they would stick, much like the modern Olympics today where they're just trying to get people to watch. And now we arrive at the statue of Zeus. It was designed by a sculptor named Phidias. He was already famous for sculpting the Athena and the Parthenon at Athens. The Zeus statue stood 12 meters tall and had an interior of wood. It was covered with gold and ivory plating. They also used copper, glass, ebony, paint, and jewels to take and kind of give it a little bit extra. In his right hand, he held a life-size statue of the god Nike. and in his left hand he held a scepter with an eagle atop it. And as I already mentioned, the statue seems to have been constructed as a publicity stunt. At this point in time, there were other Olympic-style games going on all across Greece. As a way to drive tourism in, they had the statue constructed. This would not only bring people in to donate to the temple, but also bring people in to spend money. So whatever happened to the statue and the temple itself? The statue finally found a new home in 395 CE, when Constantine I had the statue removed and brought to Constantinople. From there, its fate isn't quite certain. There's a few different theories on how it was finally destroyed. The first one being either an earthquake or a tsunami, or in 475 it was possibly destroyed by a fire. The temple wasn't as lucky in some ways. In 393 CE, Theodosius I brought an end to the Olympic Games, saying that they were a pagan sport. This meant that there was no reason to go to the sanctuary of Olympia anymore, so the temple started to take and fall into disrepair. And then in 426 CE, Theodosius II outlawed all pagan temples, so a Christian mob stormed the temple. They didn't destroy the temple completely, however. They just disgraced it and left it in ruins. Eventually, the temple would be destroyed by earthquakes in 521 and 522. The statue of Zeus stood for nearly 855 years, but why was it considered a wonder? I honestly don't know. I think that there was far grander statues in places like Egypt that deserved the title of a wonder more than the statue of Zeus did. The problem is, the people that were writing the wonders list were both Roman and Greek, so they were probably a little bit biased when it came to creating these lists. I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank the patrons. With their help, I'm able to make these videos a possibility. I'm going to suggest that maybe we remove the statue of Zeus off the list and maybe put something like the Sphinx on there.